I have NDTV Profit's managing editor Tamanna Namdar joining us, and we also have an esteemed panel of guests. We have Ajay Bagga, market expert, former diplomat Ashok Sajanhar, and chairman of RIS, which stands for Research and Information System for Developing Countries, Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma. He is a former Indian ambassador to Japan. Welcome all of you, and Tamanna, let's begin with you. I'd like you to set the stage for this very important discussion. How do you read the significance of this meeting?
You know, Malika, we're talking about it in the context of the SCO, that's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which has its roots in the post-Soviet Union era. India, of course, joined in 2007. We're talking about it in the context of BRICS as well, because Prime Minister Modi will be meeting with Xi Jinping today. He is meeting right now and will be meeting with Vladimir Putin tomorrow. But the true kernel of this entire discussion and what is really, really important is what this can do for trade and investment. The business opportunities between the two sides are immense. And this has been despite all of the freezing of relationships post-Galwan only growing. I mean, bilateral trade between the two sides was at $136 billion in 2023. China is still India's largest trading partner. Now, if there is an easing up of what both sides needs, this can really go a long way. And the biggest one that comes to mind right now is rare earth. Can China ease up the supply of rare earth to India? Can there be some kind of cooperation on APIs, key ingredient needed in pharmaceuticals? Can there be some moves on stopping dumping of key commodities like steel in Indian markets? All of that will have a very real impact right now. In fact, I'm going to go across to Ajay first, Ajay Bagga joining in. And, you know, even while we're set for a very interesting Monday, Ajay, because we've had rock and roll GDP data coming in, local court which has questioned Trump's tariffs, and then add to the mix what we can expect to come out of this conversation. It's truly historic that Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi are meeting.
Yeah, absolutely, Tamanna. So markets will be on edge waiting for news flow. That's very clear. But as far as this meeting goes, Modi is visiting China after 7 years. So it is quite significant. We can expect some announcements post their bilateral today. Which should end in another 20 odd minutes. So overall, we are in a wait and watch mode. What India needs to do is, like Vietnam has done, like most of ASEAN has done, keep the border conflicts, the territory conflicts in a compartment and welcome the Chinese capital inflows. I think that is very clear. The message should be to have multiple countries investing into India, welcome technology from abroad, and enable companies from abroad to set up joint ventures in India so that we can be more stronger in the global supply chain. I think that should be the key priority. The border conflict, the territorial issues, those will take multiple years. Those are not going away in a rush. But like Vietnam has done, like most of Asian countries have done, they have conflicts. Otherwise, they have disputes with China. But they have made an enabling environment for Chinese capital to come in. More than 200 Chinese FDI proposals are right now on the anvil, which have not been approved ever since Galwan happened. So if we are moving ahead, that economic thrust is needed, Tamanna.
You know, then the question is, look at the context of when this conversation is happening. And I'm going to come to Sanjay Verma on this. Yes, the SCO is already planned. This bilateral is coming at an important time as well. But it's coming at a time when India is under a tariff attack from the United States and is looking at key markets for exporters, which will be impacted by a 50% tariff from exports into the US. How does this meeting and any enhanced cooperation become even more important in that context, Sanjay?
See, basically, we should look at the chronology of the events, and SCO was decided on a particular set of dates much earlier than the tariff which came from the United States administration. So we should not read too much into that. As far as China is concerned, it will never be able to replace the export market which US is at the moment before the tariffs came into play. So I will not read too much into that, but I would look at new possibilities, new promises, and new opportunities through the meetings between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping. There, if you look at what are the main things that we want from China, predictability. And that predictability in trade, predictability in technology transfers with no strings attached, predictability in competing with each other globally, predictability on the border issues, which means contesting. So I would just say that with China, we have something to contest, which is border and some sensitive technologies. We should compete with China wherever we can, and we should collaborate with China on the global stage, as we have seen in BRICS and SCO now, and various other platforms. So for me, the main prescription is have a cool head, have a warm handshake with China, and at the same time, keep your spine firm.
No, definitely. There's no doubt about it. Adil Brar, how do you see an enhanced cooperation and also the question of trust beyond the border issues and dispute? And like Ajay said, those will take some time to really ease off. But in terms of areas like key components, in terms of areas even like AI, what is the extent of trust that can be placed in China?
बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं एक बार फिर चीन यात्रा के निमंत्रण के लिए और आज की हमारी बैठक के लिए आपका हार्दिक धन्यवाद।
All right, quick word from there from Prime Minister Modi coming in that we heard. Very small part of that conversation that we played out for you. But remember that this is the start of the dialogue between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping. We can expect the official statement to come in a few hours from now, and that's how this typically happens. You first have a very short opening sort of context setting by the two leaders, and then they get into those conversations which will be off camera and beyond what we are seeing. Both sides will have a very small opening statement, and that's possibly what you have seen on air right now. The entire bilateral is expected to go on for about 40 minutes, and there will be more meetings that Prime Minister Modi will be doing in the backdrop of the SCO. He's expected to meet Myanmar in a few hours from now, the chief or his counterpart in Myanmar. There will be that meeting with Russia tomorrow. So you have to look at it in that context as well. But this becomes crucial. I want to come back to Adil Brar on the point that I was making. This is all very well and good, and it is a breakthrough after Galwan that Prime Minister Modi has gone there, that this meeting has happened. What is the level of trust that can be placed in, say, some of those FDIs which are waiting to be cleared? And Ajay Bagga was talking about it. 200 proposals are in the pipeline. What is the level of trust that can be placed in Chinese investments in key areas like technology and AI now?
So since 2020, China has built a very robust system of export controls, and which can allow China to sometimes stop trade and flow of some of these rare earth minerals that we just saw earlier this year. So we need to keep in mind that China now has a system to stop and allow the flow of trade, just like the US has, which it did not in the past. So there is a huge trust gap between India and China, which China can exploit in the future. So if India is going to move forward and approve some of these FDI investments, we need to keep in mind which sectors and which areas will India allow China to invest in, and are these some of the areas that are actually more of a national security topic for India? And that is where New Delhi needs to be cautious about approving certain investments in, let's say, rare earth exploration, or even critical technologies like AI, which if you allow Chinese companies to come in now, since we are in a foundational phase of the AI models, that will have a long-term impact on the Indian economy, the long-term prospect of Indian companies. So there has to be care, and there has to be careful analysis of which sectors can China invest in and what will be the long-term impact of that.
Okay, now let's talk a bit about these sectors in detail, Ajay, because we went through it briefly. What in your mind is a key move that you would like to see after this bilateral ends and this conversation? Would rare earth be on top of mind? Because we've heard from a lot of auto companies and EV makers, especially in the two-wheeler space as well, saying that this is becoming a serious concern.
Yeah, overall, Tamanna, we need assurance from China of reliability of supply. So if you see, for example, all the iPhone factories, China has withheld the supply of a key ingredient, dysprosium. And then what they have done is they have recalled over 300 engineers from Foxconn's factories. Now they are flying in Taiwanese engineers who are very critical in the running of these factories and training the Indian engineers. So it's not going to be a free pass. Nobody gives you that. Neither the West nor the Chinese will do that. The Russians have been the steady friends who have transferred technology with no strings attached. But there's no one else you can really think of. Think of GE aircraft engines, how they have been really delayed, and nearly 20% of the technology is not passed on in India to India. So there will be kill switches in those engines as well. So I agree on the high-tech part, you have to be wary. But I'll tell you a small thing. The Doge guys, when they went into the American records, they have uploaded nearly 300 million American social security numbers to the cloud on an unencrypted line. Don't you think the Russians and Chinese have all the social security numbers of the Americans by now? So it is also a myth that we can control most of this. I would say in areas you can't let them into, say, nuclear reactors or things like that. Even on defense, I would not want Chinese parts in our key defense things. But on rare earths, for example, they have a 95% control of the world. There are 700 items that the Chinese have put on export control. That was the lesson they learned in 2018-19 when Trump started Tariff 1. They said, let's get more independent and more dominant in these sectors. So they're very clear on what they will allow to be exported. But automobiles, we are still sitting at 1970s, 1980s technology, which is priced at 2 to 3 times the world. We need to open, say, a sector like automobiles. We need to open other infrastructure sectors where the Chinese are much better. We were talking about tunnel boring machines. Those are a crying need for India. The Chinese make the best machines at the cheapest cost. We need those. Fertilizers. Again, we need, as a large agrarian economy, we need reliable supply of fertilizers. Rare earths, of course, for the automobile, defense, our entire renewable sector.
Okay, so a couple of things that are coming in that we're learning, and let me just take you through this very quickly. The Kailash Mansarovar Yatra will resume. So that is already one, I would say, low-hanging fruit, but positive development which has come out of it. Additionally, China and India have agreed to resume direct flights. This is something, of course, Prime Minister Modi has said, and maybe we can play out that entire clip for you in just a bit from now of what Prime Minister said before that conversation has begun. Among other things, he said that he is committed to ties with China. It's mutual trust, which is the base of the relationship going forward. Both nations have agreed on border management, very, very crucial from our point of view. Need to be sensitive on India-China relations. And I thank you for this crucial meeting today. But this is important. This resumption of direct flights is important. And Sanjay Verma, I'm going to come to you on this. We've already been reporting here on NDTV Profit as well, how our key airlines in Interglobe, Indigo, etc. have been preparing for the resumption of these direct flights. Why does this become a very crucial step forward?
people-to-people relationship is extremely important for trust. And whenever you have societal connects, then trust is easily instilled, particularly in a democracy like India. So therefore, I think resumption of direct flights will pave the way for further deepening the trust, which at the moment is mistrust between the two countries. And that will take things forward through the democratically elected leaders in India.
Okay, I want to come to you on that point, Adil. Of course, people to people, but also in terms of trade. So many businessmen, and these are mid-sized businessmen who were traveling to China for their business, some imports coming in for this entire trade setup. The resumption of direct flights becomes a key booster, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something Chinese tourists and journalists and even business people are looking forward to. I've heard from friends I'm in Taiwan here. There's a lot of connection between China and mainland, here in Taiwan. So there's a lot of expectation that these flights can resume and they can travel. But I will also tell you that there are certain hurdles that even New Delhi has imposed at the moment. The initial applications by Chinese business people in China who want to go to India have not been successful because of these requirements to prove the funds that they have in their bank account. And similarly, there are certain restrictions that even China has imposed. So this trust will take some time to build. And I think both sides are now making that concerted effort to change things on the ground. And if there's improvement in people-to-people ties, it will also increase trust in terms of other areas like security and economy. But I personally think there are significant hurdles that both sides still have, and they are not going to remove them immediately. They slowly want to see which side moves first. And China has actually made the first move, if you ask me, based on my conversations with people in China and also here in Taiwan. There are a lot more Indian tourists at the moment going to China than Chinese tourists are coming to India. So China has made its first move, and I think now New Delhi will have to decide what it wants to do.
What's your view on this? This is quite interesting, Ajay. If we open up tourism, and I think the two largest and most powerful group of tourists in the world right now are Indian tourists and Chinese tourists. So if we open up that space, does it become a large potential for our domestic tourist sector here as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Turkey has done it very well, Tamanna. Now, the Chinese are the biggest cohort which visit Turkey every year. They have welcomed the Chinese. They have trained interpreters in the Chinese languages. The shopkeepers are given Chinese signboards. So I think India should work on this. This is the largest group of tourists in the world. And if we can welcome the Chinese, that will help our tourist hubs, our tourism industry as well.
Ajay, in terms of the messaging that is coming in, and this is something that I asked Sanjay Verma at the start of this conversation also coming at a time of the tariff attack we're under. And of course, chronologically, SCO fixed way in advance, dates are fixed, all of that has been happening on the sidelines. But having said that, when you zoom out and look at the entire picture, how crucial does this cooperation become from India's perspective that now has to look for alternatives to the United States as a large market till the tariff situation is sorted out?
See, what we have to see is that it's a one-way trade with China. We export hardly $5 billion worth to China. They are sending us most of our intermediates. And we are not cost competitive to send textiles to China or consumer goods to China. They are the factory of the world. So what we have to do is, that's why I'm saying what Taiwan has done, what Vietnam has done, what Malaysia has done, Indonesia has done, collaborate with the Chinese manufacturers. So they set up plants here. We get the latest technology, we get capital. If you ask me, my priority would be first get the Japanese to invest. Whatever we can get from the Japanese, again, they are very long-term, reliable, predictable friends who really go by relationship. Russia doesn't have capital. Right now, they have the technical expertise. So if you have to go for capital, either you go west, which is happening, but there is a huge amount of capital available from China. So if you can demarcate, say 24% automatic FDI in XYZ sectors, or 49% with one single window clearance, and 74% with these three options, and a 3-month turnaround for the approval. If we can do things like that, I think you will get a splurge of capital coming in, companies that will bring in technical know-how as well, engineers as well, will be able to train the Indians, are exporting to China. You can do some more commodities, maybe some gems and jewelry, some bit of handicrafts, but for the rest, it's the factory to the world. Services, again, there's a huge language issue, and we are not been able to break through on the services side. Again, things like construction, banking, all that we can't enter. It's too huge. The Chinese sector itself is too huge. So we have to recognize we have $100 billion trade deficit with China. We have to make sure our key industries are protected, but those industries don't turn into crony capitalists who are going on then giving a substandard product to the Indian market at a much higher price because you have shut out the factory of the world. I think that balancing act needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot that we're looking forward to coming out of this. Remember, more details are awaited of what the outcome of this meet has been, and it's a historical one, no doubt. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on this leg of the conversation.